Joining us now is House and Senate Majority Leader William Lamberth, and appreciate you coming on, Dave. First time you and I have had a chance to talk.
Absolutely, Chad. Thank you, and welcome to Nashville, Tennessee, where you can experience all 4 seasons in the span of about a week. So enjoy the snow for about a day and a half.
I'm excited about this. My kids are so excited. First of all, they were excited about trees because we came from the Valley of the Dirt People, and the trees are awesome.
Well, we got about every tree you can imagine here. So this is as we get to know each other, and I look forward to coming to your show several times. Please come visit us at the Capitol as well. My father knows every kind of tree by leaf and bark and root and acorn and everything else that you can imagine. So a walk in the woods with my father is like a walk in the woods with a naturalist. It's great. He can point at any tree here, and I'm going to let you guys wander around the woods together, and he'll introduce you to all of them.
It's the Indiana Jones of trees. All right. All right. Majority Leader Lamberth, let's talk about, first of all, we had Jack Jones in the other day. You went with him to the Supreme Court. How'd you like it?
Man, it's pretty awesome. So I'm an attorney, is what I do for a living. I grew up on a hog farm in the northern part of my district. We had 6,500 head of hogs when I was a kid. I went from that to being a lawyer. So it's the same basic subject matter. But seeing some of the best attorneys in the land in front of 9 Supreme Court justices that, you know, should be the top of their field, go at it over a bill that Jack and I sponsored after it came to our attention that there were doctors out there cutting the private parts off of little children and putting chemicals into their body that were never intended to go into their bodies. This is insane. That, you know, if a child is going through adolescence and having a difficult adolescence, that's the treatment that some of these white job doctors believe should occur. And so we filed a bill just saying, look, don't do that to kids. And to see that in the U.S. Supreme Court being argued about, it was pretty humbling.
I bet. You know, again, you being a lawyer, understanding, have a respect for not just the rule of laws and not being a lawbreaker, but understanding that this is what you do and it's a sacred thing. You're going into a place that every amazing, stuff that is built and protected for by the Constitution, these people uphold. Were they like oracles? Were they sitting above you?
Yeah, they definitely are. I mean, when you go in, you have to check your coats and your phones, and you're not allowed to bring anything in. You get a little pass that's just for you. I notice folks going back and forth to the restroom. They give you another special pass where you can go to the restroom and back. And the judges come in, they swear in new attorneys, which I will tell you, it would have been awesome if I had thought about this beforehand. You can be introduced and sworn in before the U.S. Supreme Court. It would have been great to, do that while I was there, maybe somewhere down the road. But it was just neat. And I'll tell you, it's a bill that I'm very passionate about because when it comes to some of these woke ideologies that are out there in the world where you have the far left liberals in, California and D.C. and other places that are trying to shove some of this on the public, and I don't think it's worked. It hasn't worked here in Tennessee and won't. It's nice to be able to fight back against that, but we did it in a very common sense way. We said, if you're an adult, do whatever you want to do with your body. But if you're a child, leave kids out of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that resonated with the justices. I really do.
I think so too. Because you know this, you can, judging by the questions they're asking, you kind of get a feel of where they're going. And listening to some of the highlights, you can tell, I'm thinking it's going to be like 7-2.
It would be nice to think that it could be. I'll take a 5-4 win. A 6-3, based on just some of the questions and what was asked and what was not asked. I can see it going 6-3 in our favor because, again, all we're asking is for the U.S. government, who literally, my taxpayer dollars and your tax dollars, were paying for one of the lawyers that was arguing against our 10th Amendment right in Tennessee to pass laws that affect Tennessee children. We don't allow children to, get tattoos underage. We don't allow them to smoke or drink under 21. We don't allow them to vote. None of those things they can do, even with parental consent. And so all we're saying is that these extremely experimental medical procedures, we're not going to allow those to be done on our children in Tennessee. And I think the judges really, they really got that. And in fact, a couple of the judges mentioned what sounded like kind of their own research that they'd done, where they looked at, how Europe had gone down this road and was scaling it back and really pulling back from some of this failed experimentation on kids where they just mutilate their little bodies. And we had testimony from one young lady in committee where she looked at that committee and she said that her ability to be a woman was taken from her before she even became one.
Yeah.
And it was just heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's devastating. Talking to House and Senate Majority Leader William Lamberth, getting ready to kick off the next session here. You got a lot of stuff that you're excited about. Election integrity. Let's get in on that because that's one of the big things you're trying to get through.
Yeah, thank you for covering that and mentioning that. So just filed that a few days ago with Jack. So Jack Johnson, my counterpart in the Senate, had been working with this on this with several other members. All of us have really been trying to continue to improve election integrity in Tennessee. We're one of the best in the nation. We're one of the easiest states to vote in and one of the hardest states to cheat in. But there were 15 individuals in Sumner County that were convicted felons that have now been prosecuted. I think 12 of them have been prosecuted because a couple had passed away before it came to light. But about 12 were prosecuted in Sumner County because they were convicted felons. They were allowed to register to vote, and they voted. There were thousands of people throughout the state that the Secretary of State last year sent notices to because they were legal residents of this state and had registered to vote, but it did not appear that they were U.S. citizens. Now, some of those folks may have gotten their U.S. citizenship, but at least a few hundred after getting that letter, from my understanding, took their names off the rolls. So what we've done with this bill is we've said, look, if you're a legal resident, if you are here legally, but you're not a U.S. citizen, you can be here, but you can't register to vote and you cannot vote. That is illegal. But the problem is their driver's license that they get for legal residents looks the same as yours and mine. When you moved here from, I think you said Arizona, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you moved here from Arizona, you hopefully updated your driver's license by now. If you hadn't, you could be in trouble, so please do so. But hopefully you updated your driver's license, and you got a driver's license that looks just like mine or anybody else's. A legal resident who is not a U.S. citizen should have a mark on that license that indicates they are not a U.S. citizen. It's not a scarlet letter or something. It's just something to say this license is good to drive with, but it's not good to register to vote or vote. The same should happen with convicted felons. When a convicted felon goes in to register to vote, right now they just check a box on there that they're not a convicted felon. There should be a system that the Secretary of State, we've asked them to work with the TDI and Department of Safety to set up a system so that they can run that name before they're registered to vote. And if they are a convicted felon, they would not be allowed to register to vote unless they've got their rights restored. Both of those, to me, just kind of make sense.
Well, it's common sense. And look, if I've got to have show my license or ID when I go get cough syrup or some of this other wacky stuff, it's not hard. I got to get on an airplane. I got to show an ID. These are just common sense things, and it's always amazes me that people don't understand that, and the left pushes back. And let's be real, they're really only pushing back because they make it seem like, oh, this is a black thing. It's not. It's just a common sense thing. And by the way, people of color, they have licenses. They can easily get it, and they're fine, and they're not offended by it either.
No, it's ridiculous. By the way, I mentioned growing up on a hog farm and everything else, and at different times in my life, I mean, I've been poor, I've been dead broke. I mean, I've been at the bottom of the barrel, crawling my way back up, and I've had a comfortable life as well, and we live a very blessed life at this juncture. But at no juncture, whether I was rich or poor or in the middle somewhere, could I not figure out how to get a driver's license or a photo ID? Just because someone is poor does not mean they're stupid. And it is ridiculous that the left pushes that on a regular basis because it just shows that they have a complete and totally just separation from reality where they like to live on their high horse in their rich neighborhoods and behind gated communities and tell the rest of us that we're stupid and that we can't, govern ourselves and we need them to babysit us, that we don't deserve a Second Amendment even though they're surrounded by armed guards all the time. I mean, it's just it's an elitism that's pretty disgusting from the far left.
Oh, totally. Well, it's I was telling you, but they've got to make victims because you can't. You know this. You want to be the hero, right? You have to have a monster. So the Republicans are the monsters. They're the heroes in the story, and they need the victims that they can protect everybody from.
Well, I hate to break it to them, but Americans are not victims. We're gladiators. We're warriors. We fight for what's right. We fight for freedom. We've done it from 1776, and we're going to continue to do it to the end of time. I mean, we're not going to be told that we have to be weak and meek and all this kind of stuff. We're going to boldly charge into the future and ensure that America is still that shining city on the hill that the rest of the world looks to for economic strength and protection. And that's what we're going to do.
Talking to House and Senate Majority Leader William Lamberth. All right, what else are we looking at here as they get ready to rock and roll this next session? What big things you got going?
Yeah, so Tuesday at noon, we will all be sworn in. I mean, those new members, we've got 9 brand new members, and then the rest are returning. So in the House, we have 99 members. 75 of those are Republicans. 24 of those are Democrats. On most things, we work well together, and then a lot of other things we'll have very spirited debates about. One of the things that we will continue to fight hard for is, just like the bill you just mentioned, we will fight against illegal immigration. If you want to legally come to this country and follow the rules and go through the process, and yes, there's tons of opportunity for the federal government to make the process better, but the law is the law. If you want to follow the law and come in, you are welcome. But if you're not welcome in Tennessee as an illegal immigrant. So we're going to continue to have several bills, I think, that will help battle that and work with the Trump administration on that. Over the past decade, we have cut $5.1 billion with a B, $5.1 billion in taxes. That's out of a $52.5 billion budget this current fiscal year. So when you look at that, we're going to continue to make sure that the state you've moved to is one of the lowest tax, lowest debt states in the nation. And we're going to continue to still fund all the governmental functions that you need and everything else, but we're going to do it leaner and more effective than other states. I mean, that's 2 things right off the bat that I know you'll see from us.
You know, you talk about that, and you look at something like California. You look at what's going on there. It's ridiculous. It's mismanaged. And I've said this for years, having been, I was born and raised in California. The reality is if you took their politics and put them somewhere there isn't beautiful weather 365 days a year and there's actual weather and no ocean, that politics would disappear. It's basically the grace and the luck of being there, because they are the most wasteful state in the world. And I look over there and I think, why would anybody still want to live there?
I have no idea, but that's one of the reasons why, Tennessee is one of the most moved to states and California is one of the most moved out of states. Because while we're cutting taxes here, we're also, a couple of years ago, we put $3.3 billion new dollars of one-time funds with no debt into our roads. This year, I hope that we're going to do hundreds of millions more. I personally would love to see another $1 billion put into roads this year from surplus dollars, because we do something in Tennessee that every state should do, and the federal government should do as well. When your tax dollars come in, and in this state primarily through sales tax, because we don't have an income tax, thank God, and we never will. When your tax dollars come in, we estimate and do a low estimate on how much is going to come in, and then we spend less than that each year. So the following year, we have a surplus. We do that on purpose so that then we can put one-time funds toward buildings and roads and other, governmental interests that serve you and everyone else. But we do it with surplus dollars instead of running up debt. And we do have a small amount of debt, but it's a tiny, tiny scintilla of our budget, usually around 1%.
Well, that's nothing comparatively to what you see a lot out there. House Leader William Lamberth joining us right now. Before I let you get out of here, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. Vouchers. I love school choice, but I came from Arizona, and they showed everybody. I know everybody's, look what they've done. They're showing everybody how not to do it and how to waste money. Have you learned from some of their mistakes? Some of the stuff they've done okay, but have you learned from some of those mistakes?
Absolutely. So Tennessee leads the country in a variety of areas, and I've mentioned some of those today. But in education, it's, we have put approximately $3.8 billion new dollars into K through 12 public education over the last decade. This year, after we put in additional dollars for teacher raises and some facility funding, we'll spend more than $7 billion a year on approximately 965,000 children that are in public schools. We have about 75,000 kids that are in private schools. So instead of a huge program with runaway spending like some states have seen, we're going to have 20,000 scholarships that cost about $148 million, $149 million. And 10,000 of those scholarships are for underprivileged kids that are under a certain poverty level. 10,000 be open to anyone. And then we're going to look at that program. And if folks utilize those 20,000 scholarships, we can down the road increase that by 5,000 a year, but only if the funds are there in the budget and we decide to fund that. So of the over $7 billion that we're going to spend on K through 12 public education, we're going to spend about $149 million on these 20,000 scholarships. Now, the difference between what we're doing here and most other states, this is not a traditional voucher. It truly is a scholarship. Vouchers take money from a public school, and the money follows the child to a private school. What we're doing is the public schools will never lose a dime because of this program. There's a provision in this bill for disenrollment where a public school will not lose money. But we will have the 20,000 scholarships that will fund out of the budget. 4 school choice options in this state. And so then if that works, we can grow it later, but it will be at a measured growth that we know we can afford in the budget.
Man, I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm excited for all that's coming. You know, we got Trump coming in not too long. What are we, 10 days away from that? And that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And, of course, you guys kicking it off soon. Thanks for coming on, Dave. Great meeting. I can't wait to actually meet you in person after the snowpocalypse gives up. House Leader William Lamberth, thanks so much today. You have a good one, and stay not so snowy.
Thanks, Chad. Have a great day. Look forward to meeting you, and thank you for having me on today. And, again, welcome to Tennessee, the land of freedom and low taxes.